The message coming through with this "I have been receiving your telepathic messages" card is "I can hear you even in the silence." It feels like this person is at the least aware of the idea of soulmates, but quite possibly is familiar with the concept of twin flames or soul connections. It feels like this is somebody that may kind of have had similar experiences as you have had, thinking that you had connected with a twin flame in the past, only to find out that it was like a catalyst or a karmic, maybe different kinds of soulmates that you've encountered in your lifetime. This is something where this person has been through that sort of thing as well. This is a very spiritual person. This is somebody that is definitely would consider themselves to be awakened, is familiar with, again, like concepts of sort of like higher level love connections, things outside of the mundane and ordinary. Maybe you know that about this person, maybe you don't, but they are very consciously aware of the fact that there is some kind of interaction happening between the two of you that goes beyond just your surface level experiences with one another. And this is something where they don't want to get their hopes up too quickly that this isn't just going to be another kind of like karmic connection, another like karmic lesson, because it feels like they have been through that kind of experience with other people before. And yet the fact that there are all these kind of occurrences happening between the two of you in the subtle realms that goes beyond the ways in which you have experiences with one another in a 3D sense. This is definitely kind of like tuning this person's senses in, their intuition, kind of their perception of energy, the way in which they kind of work with energy in their own energy field and relate to others energetically speaking. This is somebody that recognizes like a different approach to this situation is required than other people that they've had like recent romantic experiences with that might not have fallen into that category of like soulmate, soul connection, potential twin flame. And so it feels like this is somebody that is having to kind of like unblock themselves in some sort of way from what might have been like a hesitation to fully embrace the concept of twin flame after experiences they had had of disappointments in the past, or kind of separate themselves from just sort of assuming, another soulmate coming in, that's going to be a karmic lesson, because they experience with you in the 3D sense that the energy you bring to the table, who you are as a person, maybe even where they're at in their own journey, and therefore what they're allowing into their life, what they're aligning with, there's a lot to reassure them that no matter what kind of the ultimate outcome is between the two of you, whether this is a long-term connection or something which, is more seasonal in nature, it's kind of got a beginning and an end, there's a sense of feeling like even if they would be disappointed, or sad if like a connection with you were to reach its conclusion, that it wouldn't bring forth all of those like heavy lessons that previous higher level connections, different kinds of soulmates or karmic experiences had, because this person has done a lot of like personal growth and development after they had had other experiences as far as like spiritual connections are concerned with other people. They'd been working on certain things prior to encountering you. It feels like for a while this person had very deliberately sought not to have, like a spiritually based connection with another person. Like they needed to take a break from that, or, their experiences in that capacity had sort of like left a bad taste in their mouth. So they were looking for things that was just like a mundane alignment. They may have just kind of chalked that up to like a chapter of their life, like a weird time in their life, something that may have coincided with their own kind of like spiritual awakening, something in alignment with like a spiritual path they were walking at one point in time. They'd almost kind of put the idea of that aside, and then you've come into their life and it is causing them to kind of like, it feels like navigate through a lot of kind of like triggers and old wounds, but you are helping to reassure this person that maybe those experiences in the past were just sort of like laying a foundation of maybe more of the negative side of things, or again like lessons and kind of like karmic people, as far as like not good karma but karma in the form of like lessons that would need to be learned, things like that. Like all of those experiences in the past were just sort of familiarizing them with kind of one side of the coin of what spiritually based connections can be like, and they're seeing you as kind of like a beacon or a harbinger of the fact that they have like reached a next level within their own kind of like evolution as a person, within a certain level of like spiritual maturity. This is somebody who feels like they've been awakened for a while, they've been on an ascension path for a while. This isn't just kind of like new territory for them. And so they feel more confident in terms of like approaching this situation at face value with you, focusing mostly on the material, not exclusively on that spiritual aspect, this telepathic, experience between the two of you, the energetic experience between the two of you. But it's definitely like whatever's happening in that regard, in conjunction with the things happening in the material world, it's helping this person to kind of like sort of change their mind or change their opinion. Like maybe not all spiritual connections are bad. Maybe not everybody I share a telepathic connection with, it's just going to end up with like me in limerence, me kind of like, face first in the midst of heartbreak and kind of having to pick up the pieces, or go through like dark night of the soul, or go through some kind of like deep and profound healing experience. So this is definitely somebody that is recognizing like you align with like a higher path that they have very consciously tried to kind of insert themselves upon. And so this is somebody, it feels like, that again is very consciously aware of this kind of like telepathic, this energetic connection between the two of you. They may be sort of hesitant to speak on that outright, but it feels like this is definitely something that they want to start to discuss, or want to start to kind of incorporate or include that more in the nature of like your 3D dealings with one another. We also have, I don't want to hide this connection anymore. And I'm hearing with this, I don't want to hide from this connection anymore. So there may have been something where when the telepathy started, when the deja vu started, when they started to kind of get all those signs and synchronicities that they have experienced with at least one person in the past, there was some part of them that was like triggered, that recoiled and was like, okay, I'm not going to go through this again. Might have kind of put up a wall, or pushed you away, or created some kind of distance between the two of you. But they were kind of like watching from that sort of shadowscape that they had created. And this is somebody that is now coming out of hiding. This is somebody that is like, they kind of wrestled with themselves, with their own fears to a certain extent. And there's a sense of understanding, like they can't just sort of assume that this connection will end up like others that were karmic lessons, or were catalysts, or like false twin flames, or soulmates that just kind of like brought lessons with them, as opposed to real kind of blessings in terms of like two people evolving onto that higher sort of pathway of love together. This is somebody that recognizes and understands that they almost might have kind of like punished you in this dynamic for things that were kind of like, again, lessons from their past, other karmic people they'd been dealing with before, kind of the surfacing of this sort of phenomenon, or this aspect of the dynamic between the two of you at first kind of presented as a red flag to this person. But they have softened their stance as far as that is concerned. And it feels like this is somebody that, again, is kind of like, should we speak on this directly? I want to kind of at least give hints and indicators that like, yeah, I recognize that there's a lot more than meets the eye that is happening between the two of us. This is somebody that feels like that doesn't know quite how to explain to you, like, I've been through situations like this before with other people, and it didn't end up so good. Maybe it was something that even kind of informed, a part of their own healing journey, or, their spiritual pathway. It was part of kind of getting their sea legs on sort of the journey of spiritually based love connections, or just like their spiritual path in general as a person. But they definitely recognize and kind of take ownership for the fact that you've come into their life very unexpectedly, and there's been this kind of gateway that's been unlocked between the two of you. There's this doorway between the two of you that has all these kind of spiritual and energetic components to it. This is somebody who is kind of like reasoned with themselves enough to understand, that even if those kind of experiences in the past ended up as lessons, ultimately this is somebody that was able to kind of alchemize those wounds into like a source of personal empowerment. And so it feels like they're kind of changing the mindset, changing the approach as far as this connection is concerned, where instead of kind of looking at this spiritual dynamic between the two of you as something that would be, kind of grounds for them to hesitate, or to be a bit cautious, this is somebody that is like, well, maybe all that experience in the past just kind of paving the way for sort of the negative side of spiritually based connections, and this could be the experience, like the teaching experience, the learning experience with you of kind of positive spiritually based connections. We also have, I'm not blind to the signs, I do see them. Yeah, so this is somebody who is very consciously aware of the signs and synchronicities. This is somebody who, has a working knowledge of, spirituality, energetic connections. Again, familiar with soulmates, for a lot of people familiar with twin flames, karmic partners, like all of that is lingo that they may not sort of like use frequently at this point in time, but these are not new concepts for this person. It feels like this is somebody that wants to almost kind of like open the door just a crack for the two of you to sort of step forth into that realm, because as much as you may have expressed to them, or maybe you didn't, they're kind of uncertain, like what are your feelings about things like that? Do you even have a working knowledge or understanding, of experiences like that? If you've had kind of like false twin flames or karmic partners or, catalysts in the past, sort of like, if I bring that subject matter to the table, is that something that then I become the walking red flag for you? So this is something where, this person doesn't want this to be kind of like a wedge or a barrier between the two of you, but they see that it's an opportunity to kind of, for them to evolve as a person and for the two of you to potentially evolve your interactions with one another, or if there's been a bit of like silence or distance, to kind of pick things back up and not just resume communication, but start to really address kind of those extra elements of this. Somebody that wants to be very like honest with you, like, hey, I've been noticing a lot of signs and synchronicities, or kind of like feel your energy when we're apart. Like, do you believe in telepathy? Do you believe in ESP? Do you believe in soulmates? Have you ever heard of twin flames? Like, they kind of want to start to bring conversations like that into the mix, so that the two of you can kind of like negotiate a way beyond that sort of fear, or almost like the impulse or inclination to kind of judge the potential between the two of you, like what's possible in the here and now and moving forward, based on those kind of formative experiences when they were just getting into spirituality, or when they were kind of just starting to encounter those sort of like deeper soul contracts, things that in this lifetime they had kind of decided, or like pre-written into their sort of soul's blueprint. Certain people they were meant to encounter that were lessons, or long-term soul contracts they were supposed to wrap up. This is somebody that's hopeful that, if you guys have like a past life relationship with one another, maybe this is one of those lifetimes where it's like it's supposed to be a beautiful experience. Maybe this is not the lifetime where it's like, okay, last time we see one another, and so it's going to be very negative. Better to leave on kind of like bad terms, so we have to detach, and there's no inclination to seek one another out through time, than to have it be like a very beautiful experience where we're trying to like perpetuate that again and again. This is somebody that is thinking like perhaps you are that kind of person where it will be the beautiful experience. We can have what we have in the here and now, and then maybe we will seek one another out in additional lifetimes. So this is somebody that wants to change their tune as far as this connection is concerned, and they definitely want to, in some way, shape, or form, start to kind of address that not only were there kind of like fears of just being hurt on an emotional level, like in a mundane sense, but there was some kind of like fear or intimidation, or uncertainty about kind of like this spiritual aspect between the two of you. But it's not the kind of thing where it was like, I don't know what's happening, this is freaking me out. It was like, I do know what's happening, and I've been down this road with other people, and it wasn't really a good experience, and so that's the reason that I've been hesitant or guarded or cautious. And in addition to kind of like addressing that directly, it feels like they want to kind of like counteract the approach they've taken recently or so far in that regard, and start to lean into this, as opposed to hold themselves back, sort of lean into the possibilities of like, maybe this is an opportunity for us to evolve as a couple, kind of like evolve as people. They definitely feel that it's better to kind of like face these fears than to continue to try and like push them aside or outrun them. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. Like or comment to claim these energies. Subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more content that I put out here. Don't forget to hit the bell button to get notifications every time I post a new video. And if you would like to book a personal reading with me, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link for that below. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.